Hello, I'm Jamila Musayeva, an international etiquette consultant, author of etiquette books and pre-recorded online etiquette courses. In today's video, I'm going to address 10 etiquette mistakes that I see being broken on a daily basis. These etiquette mistakes that I'm going to address in today's video are actually a collection of my personal observations that I have done in my latest trip to London. So I was hosting my very first afternoon tea etiquette workshop in London at Fortnum & Mason, which was a beautiful event for 10 of my followers. Not during this particular event, but throughout my time in London, I was able to observe on a general daily basis how people were behaving in a restaurant and outside of it. And these are the things that I noticed, that even at the most fine dining places and even in places where you would assume people have the best kind of manners, there were some that really caught my attention and I want to address them. The very first one is when people would request to have a toothpick brought to the table. So I've attended a few dinners and lunches with different people for work and socially, and there would be no toothpick, especially in fine dining restaurants. And sometimes some of the guests would ask for a toothpick to be brought to the table. So even if it's something that you want and need, it's better to, when you're stepping out for a little break, you could say, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." When you're going to use the washroom, you can on the way request the waiter to bring you a toothpick so you can clean your teeth in privacy, not at the dining table, because there's nothing more horrific and more unpleasant to watch as someone picking their tooth at the dinner table. So this is etiquette mistake number one. The second biggest etiquette mistake that I come across to be broken pretty much on a daily basis with fast online communication that we have these days is leaving people on scene. Because with messages we get to see if someone has opened the message and seen it, and leaving a message that requested your answer, your maybe opinion on just seen for a few days is very disrespectful. That does not mean that every message that you receive merits an answer from you or that it merits your attention, but you either don't open the message, or if you do and you have read it and it requires you to answer to a question or opinion being requested from you, if you don't have the time to reflect on it and to answer it appropriately, you could still let the person know that, I need time to reflect on this, I'll get back to you at my convenience. So let the person know that you've received it and you'll get back to them, maybe not immediately, maybe you need some more time to reflect on it, but just a short, brief answer like that would be very much appreciated, particularly in business communication. If you are handling a client or you're handling, a colleague, it's always good to leave a short message, and I would say even socially as well, because there's nothing more disrespectful than leaving someone just on scene, saying that, "Hey, I opened your message and I couldn't care less to respond." So it's important to give just a little bit of your attention to the person that took the time to ask you something. The third etiquette mistake that I saw being broken a lot, and I had the chance to go to a lot of different business meetings and work meetings and to business lunches and dinners, and I saw that some people, after finishing their lunch or dinner, they would place the napkin back on the used plate. The napkin never ever belongs to the plate. Even if you have cleared all the meal from it, you have nothing left on your plate, but the food was there before, you cannot place a napkin on the plate. The only place it can go to is to either side of your plate, so either to the left or to the right side once you have used it. Traditionally, the right place to place the napkin, used one, would be to the left part of the plate, because everything that is dirty, used, no longer needed, goes to the left side of the table. The next etiquette mistake that I saw being broken so much during the Royal Ascot, and you would think this is a place that everyone has their best manners, or everyone is well etiquette, if you will, but honestly, this was the place that I was in awe of as to the number of people that would break this rule. And I've mentioned this rule prior in a couple of my etiquette videos, is that when you're seated, be it anywhere, when there are a few rows, it could be airplane, could be theater, cinema, and there are a few rows of seats, when you want to pass to your own seat, so in front of other people, you should always pass with your face looking towards the person seated down. Never turn your back on them, because visually imagine you're seated down, someone passes in front of you and they are passing with their back towards your face. So what you get is their back in your face. That is not to say that if you turn around, there's going to be something better than your back, but For sure, the front side is at least you'll have an eye contact with a person as you're moving along and visually connecting with the person and smiling, nodding, thanking the person as you pass by, and you slightly tilt your back away from the person. Therefore, you're basically almost like slightly bowing down as you pass by. So always turn your face towards the person you're passing by. The next etiquette mistake is obviously again about table manners, and these are basic rules, and you would think with so many videos I've done on YouTube and with so many teachings I've done, I would not come across a lot of people doing that, but surprisingly a lot of people do that. And even if you could just go to a nice restaurant and you observe other people eating, pay attention to how many people sway their cutlery in their hand as they're talking. So they gesture together with the fork and knife in their hands, swaying it in the air. If you want to gesture, which I also do a lot, I use a lot of my hand gestures when I talk. I always place my cutlery on the plate. If I'm taking a break, I explain things as I need to explain using my hands, and then I go back, take the cutlery and start eating. You never sway them around in front of your face like that as you talk. I've seen that done not only by women, which we tend to hand gesture a lot when we talk, but also by a lot of men. So be aware that this is something that applies to men and women. We have to put the cutlery down before we talk with our hands. The next etiquette mistake that I took a note of during this trip to London, and it's something I've never noticed before, or I actually never mentioned before in my YouTube videos, is using humor with people from other cultures, or rather using humor with strangers. I noticed that British people love making jokes and love having a good time and use humor a lot, but British humor is very different from other cultures. Particularly, I would say that their humor is well known to be very dry, and either you understand that kind of sense of humor or you don't. That's not right or wrong, it's just other cultures might not have such a dry humor as Brits do. And so sometimes during my social interaction with Brits, they would use a sense of humor that was not particularly familiar to me, or rather maybe it would come off a bit too rude to people that share my culture. I necessarily would not use humor with strangers, and this is something that is applied across all cultures, that you have to be aware of the culture you're talking to or of a person, and particularly if it's a stranger and you're not familiar with their cultural background, their family history, their mood, what psychological state they're at the current moment, you have to stay away from using humor, sparing to using it widely rather. Maybe use some time to get to know the person first before you start introducing your jokes. The next etiquette mistake that is actually broken on a daily basis, and this is something I have taken a note of in most countries, is that a lot of people, I understand people are constantly in a rush these days, but a lot of people are not patient enough to wait for people to step out of a place, a room, elevator, a classroom, before they enter. So sometimes I find myself in these situations in a supermarket, in a classroom, or if I'm about to step into an elevator, that people that are trying to get in will rush to get in before they let the people to get out. And so I always compare this when I'm teaching to something like filling a jar with a drink, your favorite drink. Say a jar was filled already with orange juice and you now want a cranberry juice. You can't add the cranberry juice without throwing out the orange juice. First, you throw out the orange juice that is in the cup, and then you fill it up with cranberry juice. The same goes to any enclosed space, an elevator, a classroom, a theater, whatever it might be. You first let the people exit out before you step in. It just takes a few seconds of patience. You step aside, let them go out, and only after you enter. The next etiquette mistake that I see being broken so much, and this is especially noticeable when you are yourself in a rush and you realize how many people decide to block sideways and escalators, and how they would usually just stand in line that was a horizontal line rather than a vertical one. So you're on the street walking and you'll see like 3-4 people just walking casually, liberally, like taking their time like that, and there are 3 of them walking and blocking the whole sideway. If you are a group of 3 and more people, what I would recommend to do is break your group down into 2 people, or stand in a line that is more vertical, so whoever is in a rush can walk from the left side of yours. The next etiquette mistake that I see being broken everywhere across the world, and that is walking and eating. I know you've made this customary that we are always in a rush, on the go. There's so many on the go cafes and ready-made sandwiches that you just grab and go and eat on the road. I understand that grab and go is great when you are in a rush, but walking and eating is probably something that I would be strongly against. I think it's best to take a little pause, stand aside if you can't sit down for some reason, there are no seating areas. Stand aside somewhere, finish your sandwich, and then walk. There is nothing more unpleasant, I think personally for me, to watch someone as they're walking, eating something. I remember how when we were in Japan, we bought something from 7-Eleven, and then obviously the kids wanted to eat it, and we opened, and they wanted to so they basically took the sandwiches and started unwrapping and eating it in 7-Eleven, where the store manager told us not to eat inside the store, step outside. There was a designated area where you could eat and continue on your walk. So I think this is something we can learn from Japanese, that eating and walking is something that's frowned upon, and you should better take a pause, sit down, or stay standing in some more secluded area, finish eating, and then only walk. And the last etiquette rule that I have seen being broken a lot, and actually we took a short video of this with my friend when we were having dinner in London, because I've observed this a lot, and she was like, how about you do a short video about that? And we did. I'll show you now in this video as well. And that is basically a very simple rule that people used to be very well aware of, but somehow lost the knowledge of it because of this need to always feed themselves, and always it's all about me kind of a world. I do first everything for myself. But in reality, when you are the host, or if you have invited someone over for lunch, dinner, breakfast, coffee, you have to first serve your guest or whoever you've invited, take care of them, so to speak, and then only serve yourself after. So if you find yourself at a dinner table where you're the guest, you should first get the meal from the host, and only after the host should serve himself or herself. It applies to pouring tea, it applies to passing the bread around, it applies to taking the meal from a communal platter, serving the person that is in front of you. So it's just common courtesy, but this is something a lot of people have forgotten about, and I hope that we can bring it back. And really, etiquette is so much more about just rules and norms. It's so much about kindness and respect and taking care of others, because if you think about it, if we take care of each other, if we're kind to each other and respectful to each other, I think the world will be so much more beautiful than if it's only me driven, because then we are disrupting everyone's life and everything around us just to fetch our own needs. It creates a very negative environment around us. So I'm all for loving yourself, but I also think that loving others is equally important. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and do let me know down in the comment section below what were some of your favorite moments that I've mentioned, or maybe there are some etiquette rules that you see being broken on a daily basis and you would like me to address them. I love taking notes on your suggestions. If you would like to learn more about etiquette, you can get my etiquette books that are available on my website for international shipment. You can get them anywhere in the world, wherever you are. And if you want to learn even more about etiquette, you can join my pre-recorded online etiquette courses, The Art of Entertaining at Home, which teaches you how to set up a table according to 4 different seasons, how to, the rules around table setup, how to wrap gifts, how to do flower arrangement. And the second course is called the Western Dining Etiquette from A to Z, that teaches you how to behave at a formal dinner table, how to get out of the car, into the elevator, into the restaurant, how to behave at the table. And if you are still curious to learn even more about etiquette, I have my exclusive Patreon Etiquette Movie Club, where every month I do an analysis of a different kind of movie from an etiquette point of view. This is an exclusive content only available for my Etiquette Movie Club, and so far I've done over 50 different movie analysis, and by joining it now, you can have access to all those movie reviews. And for those of you that were very, very patient to make up until this point of this video, I always like to share with you the outfit of today's video, which I have acronymed as OOTD. So for today's video, I wanted to wear something that was super comfortable, summery, and this is a dress by Paul Ralph Lauren that I actually bought in Japan. I have paired them with these very comfortable sandals that I actually bought many, I think I want to say like 7-8 years ago. It's by Saint Laurent, and it goes really well with pretty much every summer outfit. And this is what I'm wearing for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!